Buckle up because we are going to be talking about sex work. And let me tell you specifically what I am talking about. I am talking about we have sent a letter off, a group of different organizations, to U.S. Attorney General, that would be Merrick Garland, signed by so many survivors, reminding him and his colleagues, especially in the southern and eastern districts of New York, because they keep using the terminology sex work. Sex work directly contravenes U.S. policies, federal laws, and international covenants. And I want to just give you, I want to break this down a little bit for you because I want you to know what I'm talking about. We have constantly seen, and the media constantly is saying, sex workers, sex workers, sex workers. No. And what I want to read to you is directly from a group of survivors who have created this for Attorney General Merrick Garland with all of our support, and that we, the undersigned survivors of sex trafficking and the system of prostitution, we are joined by allies across the United States, women's rights and human rights activists, feminists, children's rights, all kinds of advocates committed. Right, left, up, down. Everybody's on board with this one. To preventing and combating human trafficking and sexual exploitation. On September 17th, the U.S. Attorney General for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, and the acting special agent in charge of the New York Field Office of Homeland Security Investigations, William S. Walker, announced that Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. PD, a.k.a. Love, and as I like to call him, Dirty Diddy. Okay, I think that kind of encompasses everything about him, was charged in a 3-count indictment with racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And goes on to say, we applaud the Department of Justice's efforts to bring justice to victims and hold Combs and other alleged perpetrators accountable. We are appalled that the Department of Justice inserted 9, hear me everybody, 9 references to commercial sex workers in the Combs indictment. The term commercial sex workers was repeated and mentioned in different press releases and the media. And you know what? We are requesting that this indictment of Dirty Diddy be amended to remove all references to sex work. Because you know what? And listen up, warriors. Sex work is a euphemism for prostitution and the sex trades at large. And you know who came up with sex worker? Coined by the sex trades promoters and lobbyists. And they've got loads of them, and they've got loads of money behind them, right? And they march up to Albany, our state capital here in New York, and they march into Washington, D.C., and they are very well paid. Well, the other side, our warrior side, and all of our partners in all of this, and survivors, remember, all of this is about victims and survivors, right? There's no money behind that. These are individuals, volunteers coming together, bravely sharing their stories, survivors. But we, the ideology behind the term is to normalize, right, prostitution, to habituate people that this is a normal sex work. You could be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, nurse, sex worker, habituating the public to this term. And mainstream media is so at fault in promoting this because we have gone to them over and over again, and they continue in print and on the screen to say sex worker. Did you hear me? Coined by the sex trades promoters and lobbyists, right? Okay, the inherent harms of saying sex worker and calling for its legalization at the state level and decriminalization of pimping. So we want to point out by our Department of Justice, okay, remember, we the people, by them adopting this term, we'd like to say inadvertently, but I don't know if we can say that because we've been approaching everybody, educating everybody, talking about this. They keep saying sex work is legitimizing. We're talking about the Department of Justice, legitimizing the sex trade as a viable employer for the most marginalized human beings. Prostitution, listen up, is neither sex nor work, but a system of gender-based violence and discrimination. And you should all know by now, because you follow the warriors, it preys on the most vulnerable among us overwhelmingly. We've got women, girls, youth of color for the profit of the global multi-million-dollar commercial sex industry. And we want to point out, I mean, this is right in our own laws. We have to remind the Department of Justice the term sex work is not defined under U.S. state or federal laws or international laws that the U.S. has ratified. In fact, the U.S. government is clear in its opposition to prostitution, including pimping, pandering, or maintaining commercial sex establishments, is stating that it should not be regulated as a legitimate form of work for any human being. So why are they all of a sudden, everybody's calling everybody a sex worker? So, dehumanizing, right? Harmful, contributing to the escalation in all of this trafficking. It has to end. And you know, we and the overwhelming majority of those working in this field, or survivors, we have to put the focus on them, survivors that were bought and sold in the sex trade, because and we really have to break this down, because I'm tired of that argument. They choose to do this for an absence of choices, or perhaps their family sold them into this, or perhaps they had to run away from home because they were being beaten or there was nothing there for them, and they end up on the streets. And runaways get trafficked usually within 24 to 48 hours, right? Let's break it down. Let's talk about the reality. Let's talk about what this is really like, because the U.S. Trafficking Victims Protection Act includes patronizing, obtaining, and soliciting in its definition of sex trafficking, recognizing that those patronize prostitution, known as sex buyers. When are we going to start holding them accountable to some degree of picking up young girls, on street corners, girls who may say they're 18, but they're really 14? We have it going on all over New York. Roosevelt Avenue, over in Queens. We've got it in East New York. It's here in New York City. And we have our own Department of Justice. So let us come together. I am going to have some information in the body of this video where you can contact your legislators. Remember, it is very important that all of you participate in these warriors take actions, but we can't continue this. It is 2025 almost. We have a new administration going in January. Let's start really cleaning things up. Let us start educating not only ourselves, but our public. But no little girl or boy wakes up every day and says, I want to be a prostitute. I can guarantee you that. And to any parent or grandparent or caretaker out there, you don't wake up every day and say, I want my child or grandchild to be a prostitute. Don't let them normalize and habituate you that this is something that's a job with perks. Because you know what? All the countries where prostitution is legal, and for years now, places like Germany and Amsterdam and all, studies show the women and men are no better off. Let's protect our children. Let us honor our warriors hashtag, which is community creates change. Let's do it. No more sex worker talk. Remember that. And if you see something online that says sex worker, you hear it on a news channel, on a streaming, on a platform, would you please notify me? You can always write to me, Lynn at lynswarriors.org. We are here to help you in this overwhelming environment. Community creates change. Each and every day, wake up and go out and be a warrior.